I'll fall asleep if I sit down, so forgive me if I read standing up. See, I want to read a couple of poems from each of two very new books, one called Opening the Seals, which is just out, and a gold doubloon for those who can recognize the cover image, a mouth and nose. Anyway, this is a book I wrote a few years ago, just published now, a few weeks ago, playing with...
They need you to speak up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Well, can you hear? All right. The syllables with meanings attached. And when I read that list a few years ago, I was so moved by the way the monosyllables were clustered and the meanings to which he assigned to them. And that was very seminal for me. So I did a set of poems, one for each of the monosyllables in question. I'll read a couple of those to you now. The first one is the monosyllable ta. Ta. T, glottal, ah. And he thought it meant hand. A hand, your hand, hanging at your side, then lifting, reaching from your side to what on my side rises to meet you, rises. My hand touches your, and from your hand to mine seeps that amorous shadow of our hearts we call to give. So that is giving. From my side to your side also, what hands are for, and how we are different. Humanos, one of us. Manos, feminine singular, hand. We have hands. We cast shadows. Shadows of our meanings fall on the ground. They walk at our side wherever we go. That ta also gives rise, by Ryan's theory, to the words forgive in various languages, like dare in Latin and data in Sanskrit. The other root I wanted to read is, I'm calling them roots, they're not really roots. Have I lost it? Have I lost my root? What did I do? I think I'm still standing here. I'm trying to find the root eh. It's quite a nice one. Here it is. Not yet. Nope. Nope. Here we go. I think if I put glasses on, I'll see better. Won't see you anymore, but I'll see the book better. I'll see you later, as they say. This material was deeply moving to me. I mean, not my poems, but the material from which it grows, in this case. A, that's glottalized E, eh. And that is to say, the tooth, the voice, the stem, words like that. Now here's another one here, another form of the glottal A. Tooth, a tooth, to organize my mind or say it by what it says. The word that finds me, finds itself in my mouth. On Monday morning, the word E, a tooth, or any sharp thing, a thorn, tooth of the rose, clean needle day at the hospital, where a woman's dying. But they had no roses, did they? Mayans who said tooth. The day is the day tooth in the Mayan calendar we still use. They had no roses in their history of flowers. They had no roses. There were no roses in America. Who grew them? History. Who brought them? The strange, odorous commerce of colors here. No roses for them. They had avenues made of sun rays and houses made of dark. So that's the tooth. The Mayans still keep a calendar, you know, the day keepers, the Kuchkahal. They keep a day calendar, and they've kept it for thousands of years. And it's the only Native American calendar. Fortunately, tomorrow will be the day Kauk, rain day, and it's supposed to rain, so we're lucky. Not raining today. So, several years ago, I began a series of long poems. The first was called Fire Exit, the second, Uncertainties, the third, The Hexagon, the fourth, Heart Thread, the fifth, Calls. Calls was just finished a few months ago. Heart Thread was finished a year ago, and this is an advanced copy. Hexagon is still not published. It's in proofs. It should be out within a few weeks. So this is the fourth. There are copies here published by the Luna Chandelier Collective, a new collective. Thomas Panitz, who will be reading later, not much later, is the editor of that. So I'm going to read a couple of these. Each of the long poems, this is the fourth one, and one part of it is the full-length poem. Each of them has a stanzaic constraint. This particular one has a stanza pattern of 12 lines. I'll read just a couple of sections to give you a taste. Born again normal in a nullish world, dance in the drugstore waiting for your pills. Description is prescription. Ask the subway florist for gardenia. You'll see why later, she explained. Walk along the esplanade. All those ships are V. Nothing's better left unsaid. Or are you Irish? Before all and grassy, I want to know where the lost ones live. Touching our fingertips together is enough to start the dance. A flaw in the pattern is the meaning of the weave. A gnat drinking salt from a child's eye. And number 226, which follows it. Music finds you. It was made to do that, to be small and slip in everywhere. The crawl of beauty through the skull. You don't hear anything if you listen. Don't listen to the quartet like a mechanic checking the engine. Listen to music the way you go to sleep, all of you at once. Anything else is college stuff. Required courses in tonality, reality. A proud humility is the way to do anything. Listen reverent as a king hearing the first robin in spring. Can you do that? Can you take it gently into the hands of your ears? See, they agree. They agree. It is the weight of music. So speaking of music, I've always hated the music of Franz Joseph Haydn, the great classical composer, the beginner of the classical age in music. And I used to say, when I'm 80, I'll listen to him, close the door. And then one day I turned 80, not so long ago. And that very week, the college where I teach Bard began the Haydn Project. Total coincidence. So I said, Vaudin, I said, but what can you do? So I started writing the Haydn Project of my own. And it was based on a premise that I've used for many other, not many, a number of other pieces of music. That is, I start listening and start writing at the very same moment. I have nothing in mind. The music starts and I write. When the music stops, I stop. But as long as the music goes, I must keep writing. So I want to read you a few of the results of that. It won't take too long. I'll read you the trio in E major, Hofmann Liston 1526, piano trio. So there's a text for each of the movements of the piece. So first movement. It's easy for you to say that, and kindly meant, I'm sure, but there are angels in the attic, and that strange hog-snouted demon in the cellar. We are the betweenlings, and all we know how to do is sing. Some of us can be pretty, too, or make wise remarks, pass laws, play cards, comb tenderly the fur of our cat. Children learn to do all that, and more. The sad part comes, grief of war, death, and the worst of all, being a survivor, and having all day long and every day sing the same song, misty music of what is left. We children can't endure being abandoned, and yet we are. We run outside, up and down the hill, pretending to play, flirt, make love, hunt flowers, find bird nests, but all the while the tears are seething, knowing that a day will come when no one calls us home, and when we open the door will come away in our hands, the walls will shimmer, and all be Eden again, with no hope, just after the beginning and no end in sight. I turn to her and ask her if she loves me. She says something that reassures both of us, and then the sun goes down, a bird we do not recognize screams in the oak, and the mail of several days lies scattered on the doorstep, and we still haven't learned how to read. The second movement is much shorter. Once a farmer told a fortune teller, "I will give you all my barley if you can bring her back to me." Who, the seer wanted to know. If you don't know, you are no seer. Here, take a loaf of bread and go. Neither of us knows who she is, and whether she ever existed enough to be gone or come home. All I know is that this is her home. Pain tells me that, and the twisted faces of neighbors who look in, pitying me in my dead house as they pass by. Here, take some butter for your dried bread. And here's the third movement. Of course it reminds you of rivers. Everything does. Philosophy, calculus, the poetry in French class, all about flowing and going, knowing, going somewhere else. Why won't music always insist on being here, just right here, where everything really is and everything happens? Oh, dear comrades of all our perilous indoor safaris, local expeditions, dreams and desires, let me sit here in the dangerous chair to which the music comes, always pretending to be a river, the Danube at whose source I stood and prayed, or Ganges, wide as a prairie at Patna. What can we do with a river but pray to it or for it and cast my own shadow into it time after time until the end? And the end is still just water. Okay, let me stop with there and introduce our